People in this country are rightly very enthusiastic and carried away about this generation of British riders we've got now, and perhaps we're entering uncharted territory with a British team going to the start of the Tour de France with the world champion in its midst and possibly one of the favourites to win the Tour. But you belonged to a golden generation of British cycling in your own right. How do the two generations compare and contrast?
Well, there's no comparison whatsoever, because the financial support that the guys have got now is overwhelming. You've got to realise that in the 60s and the 70s, if you wanted to think about being a pro bike rider, you had to pack your bags, save some money up, and go to where it all happened. You had to go to Brittany, to Italy, or to Belgium, wherever. And no matter how good you were in Britain, you had to go over there originally and initially and reprove yourself. So you had to join a club, which is what I did, which is what Tommy Simpson did, and a lot of other guys did. And then suddenly say, oh, well, the guy isn't too bad. And after a while, you hoped you got recognition and got a pro contract. So it was a long, drawn-out process.
But you had huge hurdles to overcome, not just financial, didn't you? I mean, Brian Robinson had, in a way, blazed the trail for the rest of you following in the wake in terms of British cycling. But still, there must have been a great deal of scepticism about what the British boys could do on the continental scene from the establishments of France and Belgium.
Oh, it was that I always say that English Channel could have been 3,000 mile wide for the difference it used to make, because you've got to realise it in the 60s, package tours weren't going around. People weren't going abroad, you know. So to go abroad was, wow, you're going abroad? Are you sure it's safe? And this type of thing. Brits just were not known to be riding bikes. I'd heard of Reg Harris, and that's about all. So any Brit on the road was a rarity. And you had, nowadays, the pro team directors, they know that a quality rider comes from Britain. In those days, they didn't. They said, no, give me a hard Belgium, give me a supple climbing Spaniard, or a super duper Italian, or whatever, you know. But you know, Brits, no, they don't. They play golf and they play football and they play hockey, that type of thing.
So, I mean, when you reflect on how different it is now from then, I guess you must feel pride. I wouldn't expect you to agree with that, but I would feel extremely proud to have achieved what you guys did. But also, I wonder if you, with your kind of tough underdog, get it done against all the odds mentality, would have necessarily thrived in this slightly more cosseted environment nowadays, where you don't have that kind of these hurdles to overcome. Was that part of the gig for you, if you see what I mean?
No, I don't think that was there really, because there were lots of Brits who went abroad, and there were lots who went over there and couldn't hack it, couldn't get the head around the language, didn't know how to rough it, and they came home. And I think my generation, the riders who did succeed at my generation, would have succeeded no matter where.
Your many victories, of course, until that fella from the Isle of Man came along, you were the record holder in terms of stage wins on the Tour de France, as everyone knows. That wasn't by any means the be-all and end-all of it, though. The two Vuelta stage wins, am I right in saying?
Correct.
Two,
yep,
and then Gent-Wevelgem?
Gent-Wevelgem, Hennigerturm, Paris-Bourges.
Plenty.
Quite a few, yeah.
I was reading William Fotheringham's Merckx book that's just come out, and you get a good mention in that, as you do in Daniel Freeb's book as well that's just come out, the two. Eddie Merckx! You rode against him, alongside him, in many, many races, didn't you?
Yeah, I think Merckx was the dominant rider of the late 60s and into the 70s. And I think a lot of riders' careers were affected by him, mine included, but also the De Vlaminks, the Godefroeks, the Le Mans, the Dirks. A lot of these guys were, if Merckx had not been around, then how many races would they have won? And I know in a small way, even to my own expense, you know, that I think, well, hang on, if Merckx had not been there, I know Tom Simpson had a great saying. He said, "Ifs never won races," and he's quite true in that respect. But you know, if you, I think in '67, I was in a break unintentionally in the Tour of Flanders, and the only reason I was in a break, Flanders then started in Ghent and finished at the other side of Ghent, still all the same climbs, and I was living then in a place called Zommergem, which was about 12k out of Ghent. And I thought, right, I've got to be at the front to make sure I go through Zommergem and say hi, hi, wave to everyone type of thing. So consequently, this is what I did. And I went through Zommergem up at the front, and we came out of Zommergem, and suddenly I looked behind, and there's a big gap, and there's about 17 riders, and we were clear. I thought, oh shit, what have I let myself in for here? You know, we only got another 250k to go. Anyhow, you know, I thought, well, I'll tap on. And a great rider then, Noel Forey, was one of the greats. Rode with Van Looy, and these are names that a lot of people, if you aren't of a certain generation, will have no idea who they were, but they were great riders. And he said, "Come on, Barry, you're going to ride." I said, "Noel," I said, "I'll start riding when we hit the hills," which is what I did. And you know, you didn't have the communications you have nowadays. I never knew how far a lead we had. We had a substantial lead. Anyhow, we hit the Quaremont. And what you got to realise, and people tend to forget, they'll have seen the Tour of Flanders this year where they got the old Quaremont. Well, hang on, you know. The roads in between the hills were cobbled in those days. You know, the main road, and people, one or two people probably have been to Belgium, been to Ghent and what have you. The main road from Oudenaarde to Ghent, which is about 40k, was all cobbled.
Good Lord.
All cobbled with a cinder cycle path on either side. So anyhow, we hit the Quaremont and thought, right, being a Yorkshire lad, there was 50 quid on top of each climb. Now bearing in mind, this is '67. 50 quid was like a tradesman was on about £12 a week. So I said, oh, a good bit of money here. So right, boom, over the top. Bazza put the money in his pocket. And there were 10 climbs, you know, 10 climbs. There were 17 riders there, and each climb, boom. And I was the first, I think I'm the only rider, they don't put it down, because these are stats that they don't really need. There isn't a King of the Mountains for the Tour of Flanders. But I was first over every single climb. And we got over the last climb out of Zottegem in those days, and the Castielstraat, which is now all tarmac. There's only 3 of us left. Forey, Willy Monty, a Belgian friend, a Walloon, a very good rider, and myself. And I was flying. I thought, right, this is in the pocket, you know, with about 30k to go. And there were no more climbs. So about 20k to go, I suddenly heard all this fanfare of horns behind me.
I think I know what's coming.
And I go, what the hell is this? I looked behind, and there was a young Eddie Merckx, demented, and he was riding like a maniac. And a maniac because he got 2 Salvarani guys on his wheel. I said, what on earth is he bringing 2 Italians of the same team up to us for? Anyhow, they joined us about 15k to go. I thought, oh shit, now what? And then they just did the 1-2. Gimondi went boom from one side, and they caught him. Zandigo went on the other side, ding, dang. In the end, Zandigo went away. Forey was crafty. He got the wheel, and I wasn't crafty in those days. And I finished 5th. But you think, well, if Merckx had not been there, Gimondi and certainly Zandigo wouldn't have brought us back. So
he ruined many a race for lots of people.
He ruined many. He made the race amazingly, but I mean, you know, a lot of riders would have won probably a few more classics if Merckx had not been there.